open. That address is 2911 Taylor Boulevard. As of last night, there had been 16 different families there. I think the mayor's providing an update where that number may now have shrank. At least information I'm getting is those families may not line up with the hospital patients, which means we've got to continue to search that site, hope and pray for the best, but know there may be more loss of life that we're going to learn about today. 2 businesses were directly impacted: Kentucky Petroleum Recycling and Grade A Auto Parts. Thankfully, a local restaurant that is right there that we had great concern would be impacted and we would lose whoever was in it, was missed and now is helping the search and rescue. We're grateful for them. Another blessing is this plane could have potentially hit the major Ford factory or the convention center. Those are all close by and did not. The radius for the shelter in place has been significantly reduced. Louisville Metro is putting out guidance to residents and businesses immediately around the crash site to not consume water. EEC, the Energy and Environment Cabinet, is working closely with the city on this. Other areas are safe. Now, if you are in the suburbs, if you're in other parts of Louisville, you are as safe today as you've been any other day. The air is fine, your water is fine, but that immediately around the crash site, we're just trying to be very careful. Today, following yesterday's events, I'm declaring a state of emergency to help us deal with this plane crash. It allows us to move resources more quickly through emergency management and the Kentucky National Guard. It allows state resources to be used also through our agencies to be readily available, including disaster resource management, expenses related to response, and more, as well as reimbursement. It's going to help to make sure that groups that are already limited in terms of their funding can get some immediate or short-term help as they wait for reimbursement for the costs that they've expended. Additionally, I've taken action to establish the Team Kentucky Emergency Relief Fund to help those affected by this terrible event. The URL for this site is going to be on the screen. Similar to previous storm disaster funds, every dollar donated will go directly to those affected. In fact, what we've done is we've gone and amended the Team Kentucky Storm Relief Fund to now allow families impacted by a disaster like this to also benefit from the generosity of Kentuckians. Remember, the first thing that we pay for out of these funds are funerals, so that in a time of grief, nobody is worried about that. In Kentucky, we grieve together and we support one another. Donations will help pay for funerals and for response, recovery, and rebuilding. All right, while Kentucky is responding to this crisis in Louisville following yesterday's deadly plane crash, we must also remember the challenges that our families are facing due to a lack of SNAP benefits brought on by the Trump administration. This is a program that was under attack early by the president following the big, ugly bill. That's why in June I wrote a letter to Kentucky's congressional delegation urging them to consider the harmful impacts of this legislation and how it would hit our people, because SNAP is crucial for Kentucky. In our Commonwealth, over 600,000 Kentuckians rely on SNAP. That's 1 of 8 of our people, many of which are kids. These families need this support to avoid going hungry. But on October 1st, the federal shutdown began, and this now, today, marks the longest shutdown in the history of our country. From the start of the shutdown, the president made it clear that this program would be at risk. In fact, the Trump administration stopped the federal government from paying out SNAP benefits for November and also stopped states from flowing state funds through SNAP to pay out those benefits. And that's despite the USDA's website saying that he could fund SNAP benefits even in a shutdown. Americans should never be a negotiating tool. And I am committed to taking action to do what we can to stand up for our people. So on October 20th, I announced that while we were exploring options for SNAP, we had 2 updates that would help many who rely on this program. First, after learning our area development districts had exhausted, that we were able to move $9.1 million to help fund that program. It took a lot of work to find a solution. Thankfully, we did, and the General Assembly leadership agreed to move forward with that plan. That day, I also announced that for November during the shutdown, that we could cover the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, or TANF program, that the federal government was not going to fund. That was about $12 million that's helping our people, many of which also get SNAP benefits. Following that update on October 24th, we received a letter from the USDA confirming what had already been threatened. The letter said it was suspending all November 2025 benefit payments for SNAP for approximately 42 million Americans that rely on them, and that the suspension would continue until sufficient federal funding was provided. Let me be clear. The president has both the funding and the authority to fund SNAP during a shutdown. In fact, every other president in every other shutdown has done so. People going hungry in this instance is a choice that this president has made. So on October 28th, I joined leaders from 24 other states and the District of Columbia in a lawsuit challenging the Trump administration over what I believed was an unlawful decision to terminate SNAP benefits. And Friday of last week, a federal judge agreed with us. They said the president had to either partially or fully fund SNAP for this month and moving forward as long as funds were available. And separately, in a different lawsuit brought by cities, a court said the president needed to fully fund SNAP benefits. But knowing it would still take time for the benefits to roll in, and knowing what the delays were going to be, and being worried that the president would do what he has announced, only partially fund SNAP. I signed an executive order directing $5 million to Feeding Kentucky food banks. Those dollars are going to be used by Feeding Kentucky. They're going to be distributed through the network of 7 regional food banks that work with all the others. Together, these food banks and their nearly 900 local partner agencies, food pantries, soup kitchens, and community programs serve all 120 counties. Only yesterday did our Cabinet for Health and Family Services receive the guidance from the USDA that partial payments will be made, though that came around the same time President Trump posted on Truth Social saying SNAP benefits wouldn't go out. And that's a nice tamed down summary of that post. But today we've received confirmation from the federal government that they will begin processing payments tomorrow. Kentucky is ready, willing, and able to work around the clock as quickly as possible once funding is received. It's important to remember SNAP benefits are typically staggered through the month, and therefore payments will be too. But I can assure you our teams will be working day and night to make it happen. But knowing the benefits aren't there yet, and recognizing the strain on families and on food banks who are stepping up more than usual, I'm taking another step today. I have authorized the Kentucky National Guard, the best guard in the country, to assist in staffing food banks as needed. What this means is that every dollar we're providing to the food banks can go towards purchasing the food, and that we can provide the extra staffing that's needed as they see a surge of families coming in. It'll help ensure Feeding Kentucky and their partner food banks can focus on distributing meals without the hardship of finding additional staff. As the federal shutdown continues, we're also thinking about all the ways that federal workers face hardships, and we're doing what we can to help. One way we're doing this is by urging insurance providers to continue coverage for federal workers so they don't lose that coverage. More than 23,000 Kentucky families are experiencing a loss of income due to the shutdown, something that is no fault of their own. Remember, many have not been paid since mid-October. It's incredibly unfair for them to fear losing coverage on top of concerns about paying rent or groceries or doctor's appointments. In a bulletin we released yesterday, we encouraged insurers to implement the following protective measures for policyholders who are federal employees. Number 1, postpone or withdraw termination of coverage notices that have occurred during the shutdown. Continue that coverage for those federal workers with unpaid premiums for at least another 30 days or 30 days after the shutdown ends. Give our people the time to receive their paychecks and make their payments. Number 2, I'm also asking for federal employees to have more time to make payments on premiums and other charges. Insurers are allowed to extend payment periods for Kentuckians in this type of situation. That way, our federal employees can still get services during the shutdown and have more time to pay. I'm also asking for these companies to allow more time for repairs, giving Kentuckians more time to pay for necessary repairs. So if during a routine home inspection an insurer notes a problem with the roof, the insurer will usually give a time frame that the Kentuckian has to make repairs to that roof. If the repair isn't made within the time frame, the policy's canceled, and that Kentuckian now doesn't have coverage. We know that it's unfair at a time when people aren't receiving a paycheck through no fault of their own to lose coverage for a repair that they don't have the dollars to pay for. So we're asking for those repair times to be extended. Kentuckians with a loss of income due to the shutdown who are threatened with policy cancellations can contact the Department of Insurance for more information. Additionally, the National Flood Insurance Program stopped writing new policies on October 1st due to the shutdown. This could have an impact on prospective homeowners whose mortgage company requires flood insurance to complete their purchase of a new home. To assist these buyers, the Department of Insurance has compiled a list of surplus lines of insurance that offer flood insurance coverage and a list of brokers who sell the insurance. Anybody who needs flood insurance can contact DOI's Consumer Protection Division for additional guidance. We've listed contact information on the screen for those relief programs. So please reach out. Team Kentucky is here to help. Moving on, a lot of people after seeing that plane crash are thinking about safety. We're taking an additional step today to make Kentuckians safer. We have seen 3 straight years of decreases in drug overdose deaths, thank God. Last year, we saw our overdose deaths drop by 30%. We're going to keep protecting the lives of our people. That's why this week, my administration is taking action to classify a dangerous form of kratom as a Schedule I narcotic. This will make the sale, distribution, and possession of this form of kratom illegal. This is a powerful and addictive drug that has no place in Kentucky. Because of this action, law enforcement and regulatory agencies can get this drug out of communities. Earlier this year, I took the same step with a drug called Designer Xanax. Every step we take to help protect the lives of our people and to continue to make progress in our fight of addiction is worth it. For those struggling with addiction, please remember there's help. Please visit findhelpnowky.org. We care about you. We love you. Help is right there. Just have the courage to make that call. All right. Also, this last Saturday, we lost one of Kentucky's great leaders, our first and only female governor of Kentucky, a friend of mine, Governor Martha Lane Collins. She was a powerhouse, transforming our Commonwealth through major accomplishments, like bringing Toyota to our state for its first U.S. site, and still, it's the largest Toyota manufacturing facility in the world. She created a foundation for us to build a strong future on, and her legacy will continue to benefit Kentucky families for generations. She was a proud Kentuckian, and she'll be greatly missed. As a kid, I got to see her in that role and the strength in which she governed. I remember getting the opportunity to go over to the governor's mansion. She had a dog named Jinx, but just a great person who later would provide good advice, a lot of support, and would continue the great foreign direct investment ties she had to benefit the Commonwealth for decades after she served as governor. Brittany and I are praying for her husband, Bill, for Steve, her son, the entire family, as we remember this remarkable leader who made an undeniable difference in our state. Plans for a service to honor Governor Collins are still underway, and we think we'll have more information in the next day or so. For now, we know that the former governor will lie in the old state capitol this Sunday, with the public able to pay their respects from noon until 3 p.m. We should have more information soon. Finally, our Team Kentucky All-Stars, over the last 5 years, we have been hit by a pandemic, by natural disasters, by mass shootings. We've been hit with a lot. And I think there's a saying that God saves his toughest challenges for his strongest soldiers. And I always see Kentuckians rise to the occasion. And on something like this plane crash, you just see the worst of the worst, almost the unimaginable. But immediately after, we always see the best of the best. Now, after enduring flooding, that's neighbors carrying neighbors to safety. And certainly during this disaster, during this plane crash, it was a surge of brave, of well-trained, and of skilled first responders that took on a raging fire and have rendered the area so much safer in a very short period of time. They show everybody that you can come from, 15, 20 different fire departments, different groups, and you can work together seamlessly. 50 different fire trucks putting out the flames and then bravely walking through a dangerous area, going from what used to be a building to another what used to be a building, trying to find people. I got to watch the footage from the helicopter in real time, while that fire was still going on, of brave men and women moving through the area, trying to find people that needed help. So listen, our Team Kentucky All-Stars today and every day are all these first responders, both at the site and who do the planning and the execution off-site. Sadly, we've gotten really good at this. The Louisville group, emergency management, everybody they work with is top-notch. The state group is too. By now, we're all on a first-name basis and know just about everything about each other's families too. I hate that that's the case because it means that we have responded time and time again, but I can tell the people of Kentucky that this group is the very best at what they do, and we are so blessed to have them. So they are today's Team Kentucky All-Stars. All right, we've got a couple of journalists that are with us in the room today. We also have about 4 on the line. We'll start with Carolina from WLEX. Yeah. So right now, we are tracking 9 fatalities. I do believe that will grow by at least 1. There were 3 crew members, and we don't have confirmation on them, but if we've seen that video, we know we're very worried about each of those. So that would suggest that there are at least 6 individuals, if not 7, outside of the crew that were impacted. When you look at where the plane hit, thankfully it missed that restaurant. And by the way, they've opened up their restrooms and their facility for first responders. Pretty incredible. After just about having your facility and everybody inside wiped out, that you're now a part of the rescue. So very proud of them. It hit 2 of the lesser populated businesses in the area. It hit the Kentucky Petroleum Recycling, and because of what they have there, and the tanks that they have, that made the situation more dangerous. It appears the pressure valves did go off. It did cause, we think, extra smaller explosions, but it appears they may have operated as intended to prevent it from being worse. At different times, first responders did have to take cover because of what they were dealing with, but they were trained and ready and knew what was on site really quickly, really impressive to watch, and I was listening to it in real time. It then hit, I think it's called Grade A Auto Parts, which isn't just a store. It's more of a large lot of cars. I don't know if it's a pick-apart, but it looks like one of the pick-apart yards, at least from overhead. So not as densely populated as a number of the other businesses would be. Now, there are some other, we believe, small businesses there, and there are a number of buildings that were fully destroyed or partially destroyed. Getting in to the blaze quickly was complicated by that, but these groups got in and got control of this much faster than I think most people would have believed was possible. This is very close to the Ford facility. Very close. I was talking with their CEO, who we spoke directly. cares about the people in that facility, and Ford leadership has surged in. I think they'll be fully open by this afternoon, but was being very careful with their people. I mean, the images from just the back of their facility are incredible, and how close it is. The convention center, the livestock show is very close, and so people were coming in, talked directly to their head of security, who shut down people coming in, got the information out there to take care of folks. Louisville Emergency Management did a really good job, first with the 5-mile radius, but then very quickly being able to see where the smoke was going, and give a smaller radius for that. And now it's down much tighter. And then we are doing water testing right now in and around the area. And everybody can rest assured that we're going to use all the best science for that and be able to tell them when everything is safe. It's hard to lose 9+ people and consider yourself lucky. And I don't think we're lucky, but it could have been much worse. Do we have Lachlan? Nope. Okay. Tom Latek is on the line.
Thank you, Governor. Had to jump and get the unmute button there. I would like to hear your take on the election results in New York, New Jersey, and Virginia, and what you think that might lead the 2026 midterms to.
Well, as vice chair of the Democratic Governors Association, I'm very proud that last night we went 2 for 2, and they weren't close. Our gubernatorial candidates both made history. One flipping Virginia, becoming the first female governor of Virginia, winning by, I think, 15 points more than projected. And then Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey becoming governor. This is the first time there's been 3 consecutive Democratic gubernatorial terms in 60 years. Neither of these races were easy. I certainly was directly involved in very significant ways in both of them, but most of the credit should go to those 2 candidates who are great leaders. And the thing that I'm excited the most is that they will govern well. But what you saw across the country were Democrats winning in city council races in South Carolina, statewide PSC races in Georgia. You saw the New York race and many others. And I think it says 2 things. Number one, the American people are so concerned about the American dream slipping away. They are looking for candidates that are focused on their everyday concerns and needs, and that starts with their job and whether they can afford what they need to feed their family, maybe take them on a vacation every once in a while, the ability to afford that next doctor's appointment, to be able to travel safe roads and bridges, to know the school they drop their kids off at is a quality school, and they want to feel safe in their neighborhoods. That's where the Democratic candidates were. That's how they ran, even across different parts of a political spectrum. That's what people were promising. And, I'm putting it out there. I don't want it to be a secret, because I think Republicans, independents, all those candidates should be running the same way. And maybe that's a way to heal the country, to bring everybody back in, to make these issues nonpartisan, and then not to move to the right or the left, but to move forward. But I think the other thing we saw was a very clear statement that politically, President Trump has been a failure in his first year of his second term. The president was involved in and lost the Wisconsin Supreme Court races. He was involved in and lost both of these governor's races. He even endorsed a non-Republican in the mayor's race in New York and lost. So I hope that this gives courage to people who've lacked it in Congress to do their jobs again. I'm not asking them to be a Democrat or an independent. I'm asking them to be a separate branch of government that believes in checks and balances and restores lawfulness to Washington, D.C. Just do your job. There's not a political advantage to not doing your job, and the people of the United States are watching. Okay, we've got WLKY. Okay, we have Sylvia Goodman. All right, we have Liam from the Kentucky Lantern.
Hi, Governor. Can you hear me?
I can.
Great. I had a little bit of context before I ask my question. There's an advocacy group called the Kentuckians for Energy Democracy that they say that have organized roughly 40 other organizations to sign on to an effort um, urging you to issue a executive order for a moratorium on stopping utility disconnections during the government shutdown until the next allocation of LIHEAP funding is made available to Kentuckians. The National Energy Assistance Directors Association, which represents state directors of LIHEAP programs, last month called for utilities to suspend shutoffs during the government shutdown. I wanted to ask a little bit of a two-part question. Would you consider such a move? And second, what's your understanding of the status of LIHEAP funds in Kentucky, especially in the context of cuts to the federal LIHEAP office earlier this year?
Yeah, let me get you where we are on LIHEAP. I'll certainly consider any information that is sent to me that would help our people during the shutdown. I don't think that I have seen that petition, but if it's reached us, I will make sure that I do. Always willing to consider things that could help the people of Kentucky, especially those that work for our federal government and that aren't receiving a paycheck right now through no fault of their own. Okay. What's the last? Okay. So Sylvia Goodman is asking, do we have an estimate of homes, businesses in the area that are in the radius for water? I believe Louisville Emergency Management is putting out that information directly, both on social media and working to do it directly. Now, this is not a densely populated residential area. It is almost entirely an industrial area that is impacted. At least two businesses have been massively hit, and we'll try to get a number of the others around them. Certainly, we've got enough people on the scene where we ought to be communicating directly to those businesses to make sure that we keep people safe. All right, we'll be back next week with our Team Kentucky update. We'll have all the pieces of good news we were otherwise going to report on this week ready then, and a double dose of good news will be something that we all deserve by that time. Please pray for these families. We've been hit a lot in the Commonwealth, but we are strong. We are also kind. Let's make sure that we give to the fund. Let's make sure we support these families in their time of need. Thank y'all.